What about these 5,400 emails that Biden got under a pseudonym? What's that about, John?
Yeah, listen, he was using a private email account, a la Hillary Clinton, in doing some government business on it. That's why these emails are now in the archives. We know from the laptop that some of these emails forwarded sensitive information to Hunter Biden. There's an instance where a U.S. prisoner is about to be released from Turkey. It's not public information. It comes to the State Department's communications, and the information is forwarded to Joe Biden's private account, and then he sends it to Hunter Biden. We don't know why yet. There are other instances like that where information coming from government officials, like a planned phone call with the Ukrainian president right after Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor, was fired, that is also sent to Hunter Biden. Nobody knows why yet, but there are 5,400 emails that Joe Biden used a private email account with pseudonyms like J.B. Ware and a guy named Peters, and just using fake names and communicating with Hunter Biden and government officials. This was a FOIA that I filed back in 2021. It's now ripe for a lawsuit. Southeastern Legal Foundation sued yesterday to force their disclosure because the National Archives, they had no problem helping out the Justice Department in raiding Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago compound, but they don't want to give up these emails to the public, even though they're public information.
So, what is Comer doing with these?
Well, we'll find out. He just learned about these yesterday. This is a number we just put out yesterday because I just got it from the National Archives and Southeastern Legal Foundation did. So my guess is there'll be subpoenas at some point to get these pieces of information. But the scope and size of the private emails is very large, a lot more unexpected. I think a few people thought, well, maybe used it a couple times. It seems to have been routinely used by Joe Biden when he was vice president. And the question now is, how often to his son, how often to his son's business partners, what else did came off government servers and went to the private email? There are lots of shadows of Hillary Clinton in what we've now discovered.
John, let me just ask you this point blank. How incriminating are these emails? You've seen some of them as far as the Comer investigation when they finally do, get off the duff and call for impeachment. Are these emails that under a pseudonym, you think these are going to be central to Biden's eventual conviction?
Well, some are already, right? We know there's one email where, for some reason, Hunter Biden is CC'd on an email where Joe Biden's about to speak to Petro Poroshenko, the Ukrainian president at the time in 2016. This is just a few months after Petro Poroshenko was basically jawboned into firing his friend and godfather of his children, Viktor Shokin, as the Attorney General of Ukraine. Why would Hunter Biden be on that email? Makes no sense. It's a State Department email. It's sent to Joe Biden's private account, and Hunter is CC'd. Why? Those are very important questions. Hunter Biden should have no role in a phone call involving a Ukrainian foreign leader. There's another instance, like I described, where a State Department sensitive information about the pending release of a U.S. hostage, a U.S. prisoner from Turkey, is somehow moved from Joe Biden's official account to his private account so he can then send it to his son. What interest did Hunter Biden have in that? We don't know yet, but we clearly see instances where Joe Biden is taking government information and forwarding it to his son, who had all of these foreign business interests across the world. I think these are red flags. We need to know a lot more about why, what, when, but these are the roadmaps. And I think when we get to 5,400, there'll be other instances of, oh my goodness, we didn't know that happened. This is a classic connect the dots, follow the money exercise, and James Comer appears to be right on top of it right now.
John Solomon with us. John, let's get to the Trump trial date for the J6 situation. This Obama hack judge scheduling it for March, right in the middle of the spring primaries, right in the middle of Super Tuesday. Is this not egregious election interference, just right up in your grill?
Certainly everyone around the president feels that it is. And the fact that there are 9 cases brought against President Trump heading into 2024, almost all of them from Democratic administrations or Democratic figures, is a sign that maybe this is a political pile-on. And I think a lot of people in this country are beginning to have concerns. There are 2 really fascinating dynamics going on in the polling. The first is, for the first time, a majority of Americans believe that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were doing something corrupt. Remember, 4 years ago, we were told thinking that was a conspiracy theory. When I wrote the first story about Joe Biden in the videotape bragging of firing the prosecutors. We were called conspiracy theorists. Well, our conspiracy theories came true. But what's interesting is even though there's a blockade in the media, Americans are getting the message that Joe Biden has a corruption problem. The second dynamic is that a majority of Americans now believe that these prosecutions have something to do with politics, with interference. In politics, perception becomes reality. Those two dynamics are working very strongly together. It's why why Donald Trump is rising in the polls, while you start to see movement of black voters towards away from Joe Biden and towards Donald Trump. There's a really powerful dynamic, and it's occurring in spite of the fact that the news media has blockaded most of these stories. It means that shows like yours and publications like mine and Truth Social are beginning to have an effect. They're able to get around the blockade and get Americans the facts they need to make an educated choice.
John, let me ask you this: the Shokin interview the other day. Shokin seems convinced. He seems convinced that Biden took bribes. What was your major take on that, John Solomon?
Well, it's identical to the exact. He gave me exactly the same information in September 2019, a story that I published in The Hill. So Victor Shokin has been very consistent. Who hasn't been consistent? Joe Biden. At least 5 or 6 of the claims he made in 2019 during Donald Trump's impeachment and then all through the 2020 election are simply false now. They are lies. They were categorically untrue. Some of them are substantial lies, like the fact, which I reported last week, that Joe Biden told us when he fired Shokin, when he withheld the $1 billion, he was carrying out U.S. policy. We made public last week State Department documents showing he wasn't carrying out U.S. policy. The career officials told him, give Shokin the $1 billion. He's made enough progress on anti-corruption reforms. He told us that his family didn't get any money from China. We saw millions of dollars that Hunter Biden was going to admit to he got from China. Joe Biden's story has crumbled. Victor Shokin's story, the one he told me in September 2019, which is carried all the way through with renewed with the Fox interview this week, remarkably consistent. One guy's story stayed the same. The others has crumbled as more facts come out. That's why Joe Biden has a growing problem with corruption, why Americans no longer believe he's telling the truth on these issues.